Okay, I do like to go over things first, but I thought you were just throwing me in there, which is cool too.
Now we're live.
Oh, okay. You threw me in the deep end. How are you?
I am great. I'm great. How have you been? I feel like I haven't seen anybody in the Canna fam forever.
It's been too long. I'm well though, hanging in there.
Family's all good. Everybody's healthy.
They are. I'm gonna go live on Facebook.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
So
my
yeah.
my father's in his 70s, so he doesn't go far anyway, but he goes golfing alone or walks in the woods, and he's making the best of it.
Oh
Um,
man, I
I've,
want to
I've,
go golfing so badly, so badly.
yeah, about 8 weeks ago, or maybe 10, before I really quarantined, and I saw them one last time. I was hitting golf balls in the backyard, and just didn't think that it was going to be changing so quickly. But it does make sense with what's happening, and we have to adjust and overcome the challenges best we can.
Changes just like that. When you're an entrepreneur, like everything is just like adjusting on the fly and kind of going from there. It's funny, thinking back. Actually, quick intro before we get into that story. This is the What Did Adam Say show, so I'm bringing this back for the people that don't know. I started podcasting because I had a What Did Adam Say podcast, where I basically just get stoned and start rambling off ideas, inspiration, stories, things like that. Now I have friends. So now I could have my friends come on and we could tell stories and do all that stuff and bring value to people. So I am here today with Hope Marian, who is one of my favorite people in the cannabis industry and probably one of the first people who's really helped me in the cannabis industry, and is a migraine specialist. If you ever have any kind of migraine problems, Hope can probably give you an idea of something that can help you.
Or at least something to try that you might not have thought of.
Exactly. Every time I have a headache, Hope is always there. Like, I'll put up a status like, "Oh, anybody had a lot of headaches?" And she'll message me like, "Hey, try this." I'm like, "Oh, sure, I'll
Right?
do that."
Why didn't you message me?
Right? Yeah. Like, why don't you just think about these things, Adam? Just message me. We're
I
friends.
I feel bad when I see that people are suffering, and I haven't been able to provide any information or experience that might help them. But you know how much they suck, and I found that mine are personally increasing with the lifestyle changes that are happening.
Yes, I
And
agree.
in a way, relearning how to navigate that, because what once worked is not going to work now. And so instead of thinking of that as, well, I'm starting over and that's completely frustrating, I'm just looking at it as, well, it's a next level, it's a next step.
Mm-hmm.
And we're evolving in a lot of different ways. And so how my body is responding to things around it is going to also be different.
Yeah, that's the thing about the human body is it's just like we're always in constant change. We're always constantly evolving, whether it's mentally, physically, anything like that. And I was just saying to somebody today, who was I having this conversation with? I think my mother-in-law. I was saying that I feel better physically and mentally at 30 than I did at 20. You know, I didn't know how to take care of myself at 20. I was saying, like we would be binge drinking and eating fast food, and like I'd go to the gym for 3 hours and then I'd come out of the gym and light a cigarette and go to Wendy's, like just like doing stupid stuff when you're younger.
Yeah, we pretty much counteracted every good thing we did for ourselves at that point. So
It's funny because
I,
then
I
when
was
you
I was guilty of it too.
aren't
We
we
all
all haven't we all eaten too many McDoubles in our lives? Sometimes you got to do it though. So a lot has changed since we first met each other. I think we met each other almost 2 years ago now. We met at Harvest Cup officially. We were both at a Sensi magazine night that we just kind of must have been doing circles around each other, didn't see each other. And, back then, things were so different. Like, my business was just a concept. You were one of the first people to even hear about, like, our business plan and business concepts, and probably one of the first people to, lend me help and advice in directions to go. Now, so much has changed in that year of not just with our business, but the hemp market and the CBD market as a whole. How do you see, that it's changed in both good and bad ways in like this past year and a half or so?
Of course. Well, I mean, regulatory speaking, I mean, that's been interesting. We were not expecting the vape ban. And of course, we were expecting to also be able to process and sell CBD flower a little bit differently on the hemp side. So that was a
Yep.
surprise for me on the hemp side. But the vape ban really, it had an impact on businesses that a lot of people could not brace for
Yep.
because it wasn't anticipated, especially for that long and to that magnitude. So on the legal side of things, there's been some surprises. I know that the states worked really hard to push things forward, but between the DPH dissolving, they're part of the medical marijuana program, and the Cannabis Control Commission picking that up. I'm sure that added things on their plate that might not have been originally planned for with the amount of staff hired. So with them meeting once a month, I would just say things have not moved as fast as I had ever expected. When I left in 2015, I joked that I would go have a short career in California and then come back, and math would just be picking up. And it actually happened like that. I really didn't think that it would take that long, and so there's been surprises. Now I
Yeah.
would say with California depleting their medical program, I have huge concerns that Massachusetts would do the same.
Yeah, and it
So
seems like
really
they're
hoping to preserve this. Like we have to be that example for these other states and show all the reasons and other explanations as to why it's crucial to hold on to that program.
yeah, all the economic equity movements going on right now and everything, like all the applicants and everything, where they just changed the writing in the CCC to say that they only have to get 10% of the company or something like that.
Yes, you only have to hold on to 10% equity of your company, um, as far as holding on to your status. Prior, it was a lot less. And I know that people had difficulty raising funds under those circumstances, but I would really like some explanation from the CCC as to how the number 90% was picked, because I just have difficulty in determining why that specific number was chosen. And there's a lot of big corporate entities that already have their hands in licenses. There's a lot of back end ways and loopholes that people know and openly use to
Mm-hmm.
grab different pieces of equity from multiple licenses. And so that oversight, I have to say, we have to work on that. Or smaller people and businesses like you and I will never survive.
No, no, and it's been inspiring, but also frustrating to watch, people like Big Ed go through what they're having to go through to get a license in Beantown, Greentown. Like the hoops that everybody has to jump through on the cannabis side is exactly why I went into the hemp industry. Like,
Right. I mean, and also look at the medical.
mm-hmm.
$50,000 a year for medical, but it's $10,000 a year for recreational. And I'm probably one of the only people that is continuing to stand on my soapbox and try to push for the changes in medical, especially on the fee end of that. You have a vertically integrated business. Oh, thank you. Go follow me.
I'm producing back here. You know what
Well,
I'm
I'm trying to
saying?
point at it and I can't. Right?
By,
Like, what's he
by the way,
doing?
for everybody watching, I see that there's 12 people in the room. If you'd like your comment to show up on screen, then you have to go to the Urban Acres Facebook and comment on that video, and it'll show up on screen. So you can get a little shout out. And make sure you follow Hope Marian. I'm pretty sure that I was checking before we hopped on. That seems to be like your across the board handle. No, besides Migraine Hope.
It is for now. Yeah.
Nice. Working
Yes.
on HopeMarian.com. I remember when you first hit me with I was like, "What's your email?" And you said info at HopeMarian.com, and I was like, "I'll never forget that email."
I get some weird looks or I get compliments, so it goes either way. But I'm glad to hear it was memorable for you and that it stuck. Yeah, I mean, there's just been again so many changes. So I started the avenue of a manufacturing license application when I moved back to Massachusetts. And then I added on a tier one cultivation. So I already went through the hoops of that and the struggles. Although
Mm-hmm.
I don't uh, speak on that often, like I'll gladly help anyone that's looking to get a license in Massachusetts. It's just a really long, hard process to figure out. And a lot of people don't have the resources to do that. So having written applications in 4 states now, I'll gladly lend a hand when I can. It's just very, very, very in depth, and people don't always have that preemptive knowledge of what they're getting into or how much money is realistic. And
Mm-hmm.
that goes for business in general. But then you have to add another layer onto that for it being a cannabis business and all of the other
All the uncertainty.
facilities and fees and just expenses that go with that naturally. So, with the state holding on to things and with the towns having the amount of control that they have, I was just hitting roadblock after roadblock, especially with the community that I had embedded the business into. So I would say, look into the community first.
Mm-hmm.
When we opened Central Labs Compassionate Care and Air, and that was the first process, was going to the town and saying, hey, we haven't gone to the state yet, but what do you think of this? And they said, oh my gosh, we would love that. And then the application started with the DPH. While so many other people, 5-6 years ago, were starting their application, and then either adding a town or finding out later the towns had different zoning restrictions, and that's where a lot of people get restricted and stuck. So, and I got a little bit stuck there too. Sometimes you can't get out of it, no matter how much preemptive work you do. The towns have their moratoriums.
And some of
So
the
that
towns don't even like really
it's
know.
like a year and a half of my life I feel like got erased.
Just looking through different
There's
town
brands and
moratoriums.
yeah, I was like, there's brands and so many things that just didn't come out because with the restrictions, it just didn't make sense to push forward without it looking like it would be successful on paper first. And so when you do those checks and balances, it's painful. Like I could tell you 4 different businesses of mine that I would say would fail, but they didn't because I pulled the plug. And so,
Mm.
that's just part of being an entrepreneur. It really is. And so this year, I was excited. I spent, the last half of my year structuring a lot of educational courses, and I had like 8 different events get canceled immediately starting this like last month. It was starting at NoCo, and I had like this tour planned.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
It was
everything on
so
my book
hard.
got put on hold because no one's going into Barnes and Nobles right now.
Yeah. Nobody's going anywhere right now to like buy
Yeah, so
products and
you have to have a disaster plan. That's always part of your business plan. Is what are you going to do in all cases of disaster? But this is a level of disaster that a lot of people have not prepared for, and so like many people, going into the freelancer consulting side of things, it's a very difficult space, but I
mm-hmm.
found it to be very rewarding to help other companies and people like you. I love hearing updates from you and being able to give you any information I can when you're like, hey, I have a problem. Because seeing you progress, it like makes me really proud. And we're all going to evolve and find our place in the industry. But it takes determination and a lot of willpower to not give up.
Yeah, I feel like I just put a post up on my Instagram today talking about this, like just how much different last year is from this year. We went from, uh, our first year of growing at scale, and we did well. We did very well. We made a couple of gigantic mistakes. One of the mistakes was we grew a strain called Otto, and we hated it. It was awful. It grew like a male, which if you grow cannabis,
We
you know what that means.
we talked about Otto too.
We did. I know. Trust me. I'm a
I
stubborn
didn't know
male.
you did that. Oh my gosh! So Otto 2 took a lot of my time
For a
in Central Lab.
just a tiny bit of yield.
Well, I was in the cultivation facility every single day for about 10 months there, and spending maybe 2 or 3 hours a day on the floor doing other back end things. So getting the on hands large scale cultivation experience really shaped how I look at the plant in a different manner. And
hmm
I was so excited that we got Otto 2 because you had to start from seed. Medical, you obviously can't start from clone. So to source CBD seeds back in 2015 in a legal manner, like whatever that is. The state's like, just go find seeds, but don't tell us how you found them.
Yeah, go find them.
Right? They're my hands. And when we found the seeds that were sourced from a company in Massachusetts, because you had to have receipts from a Massachusetts LLC. So you could only buy cannabis seeds for medical patients in Massachusetts, unless you found some integrative way to get them, I guess. But on paper, it's all we could get from a seed person locally, and it was terrible. There's nothing you can do for that plant to produce a worthy yield.
They were the tallest. They probably got to be. We had some 10 to 15 footers, and when they would blow in the wind, they would be like all the way over, and then boom, right back up, and they were fine.
Maybe for fiber production, but I would never have used those genetics for flower and oil production. Yeah,
and they were the hardest to shuck off the stalk. The hardest. They got the least amount of yield, so they're this tall, and they got all of them average less than 1 pound per plant.
It's like growing corn.
Yeah, seriously, it really is like growing corn. And so we had some Boax, and we had some we call it Cherry Thunderstruck. It's Colorado cherry wine crossed with AC/DC. I was like, every time I get stuck on that, I think, where did the Thunderstruck come from? So those plants got like 6 pounds per plant average, so had we not grown Auto 2 and listened to some people that might have known, then we would have probably ended up with 400 pounds on our 10th of an acre instead of 200 pounds.
Yeah.
But we still,
you live and learn.
Yep.
I made a mistake. We grew at least 80 to 100 plants of that.
Wow.
I mean, we sold whatever flower came from it was sold. It was never processed into oil. And honestly, a lot of people were into it at first. And I'm going to say at first, because they got the town like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for this. And this wasn't when you could get CBD products in the gas station. So think of how far that's come.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm like, well, just warning you, it's like you're licking your front yard.
No terps.
Like if you just ate a mouthful of grass. I'm like, so don't expect, and again, like you want to look for different genetics that now have an abundance of specific terpene profiles. We didn't have the means to even think about the terpene profiles at that point in a CBD genetic. We were on the THC side, but again, like you couldn't be super picky. And so I was recommending to people when they're coming in and complaining and returning the product, mix it with some THC flower, get that 1-to-1. To start pushing CBD education and explaining how that works, and people can kind of forgive that. But to smoke CBD flower is a very specific end result. And I find it so ironic that now, as a hemp farmer and processor in Massachusetts, as you are too, neither of us can sell hemp flower to each other to go process into a container to sell. As long as you process it for oil, you can sell it, but not for smokable. And that's a shame because, like I said, it works for everyone differently. And
and I
want to hear the specific reasoning why having the same cannabinoid in plant form can't be sold the same as it being in a stronger, more potent oil form. And when I asked MDAR that, I think any explanation besides it's in the regulations.
And it's funny because
that's not my job to explain it.
The oil is like less regulated than the flower. Basically, like they're kind of like whatever on
the only
oil.
regulation is don't sell the flower to smoke it.
Yep.
She was so impressed I have a fire extinguisher. We need stronger regulations.
I remember when she came into our basement, I was like, so what do we need in order to process, legally up to code? She's like, I don't know.
That's why she said, I'm impressed you have a fire extinguisher. I was like, okay. Because I was like, I have a lot more like PPE and like safety equipment up my sleeve than a fire extinguisher for my kitchen.
You're like, I just put this down here so you guys would think I'm doing okay.
I can't read any comments. Is there any questions or anything coming through?
No questions yet. Does anybody have any questions about hemp and cannabis and migraines for Miss Hope Marian?
And
What
so
it what,
I also have been finding a lot of out of state colleagues just messaging me and having conversations often about the differences between their state and Massachusetts. And so looking at the Illinois regulations recently and looking at their application process, it's funny to see which states have like plucked and pulled from us, because all of a sudden I'm reading something and I realize it looks exactly like our micro business license structure. And it's great. Like I've explained to other colleagues and friends, like, no, I think that came from Massachusetts. And so, we are making, you know, waves here. We are having change. It's just as a community, which is a hard word to use, but
mm-hmm.
we're still in a community. I would hope that we can stick together and understand that the bigger conglomerates are coming in, and we need to be the bigger voice to the CCC. So if we don't
Mm-hmm.
get our shit together, everything that we've worked for, and I know so many people that have been in this space. I've entered it in 2014, and so many were in it prior. I'm sure everyone's exhausted, and with all these life changes, it seems like everyone's on edge with business hurting.
Especially the
But
last
we
couple
are the voice
months.
for reason, and we are the voice for change. So, I just hope that we can stick together and also work through what's happening with recreational. There's so many people that are either on hold or, actually near my home a week before Governor Baker had called for the closures, they opened local routes. And I was really excited because I've been driving by their storefront for probably 3 years randomly and gone, oh my gosh, like when are they going to open? At that point, it was like the closest one to my hometown where I grew up. And so they opened, and 4 days later, they could only do curbside pickup. They had, a local city cop detailed there and everything. And it was moving seamlessly, and all of a sudden now it's dark again. And they have to be paying $5,000 or $6,000 for rent is, the average. I'm not saying them specifically, I don't know their numbers, but as a whole, like that is the average that I'm seeing for brick and mortar.
Yep.
And have that overhead with everything else that you just put in your facility. And also cutting back skeleton crew and cultivation. I've worked skeleton crew through holidays and other storms.
Mm-hmm.
And it has an impact on your crop. You're not giving your plants the amount of attention that it needs. So I don't know what kind of oversight the CCC is actually putting in, like if they're seeing how many employees you have working or things like that. But I could see that really hurting a cultivation facility as a whole too. Specifically, not just like obviously the retailers are taking a huge brunt of it, but for people saying, well, cultivation's still open. Well, what happens when all this product is drying in your vault and you can't sell it? I mean, maybe you will be sourcing medical, but
This is when we wish that things
who
weren't
gets
so
priority
goofy,
in
and you
sourcing
could
products?
the recreational the facilities could just work with the medicinal facilities right now, because the medicinal facilities are getting overran with patients right now, like more than they've ever seen. And because everybody right now is like, oh, so I got to go get a card and I'm getting a $1,200 stimulus check. All right, I'll go use my $1,200 stimulus check for a medical card. And now all these medical dispensaries are getting a bunch more traffic, and I bet you eventually the supply there is going to run low. And what's going to happen then? They're just going to be like, oh, we just can't serve anybody, even though recreational facilities have cannabis available currently. It's so silly, honestly.
Recreational facilities will have to source into the supply chain for medical. Absolutely. There's been a 125% increase in new patient registrations every week. So.
Wait, so they can do that? Is there a bylaw or a clause that says like if things get to a certain point that they can take from the recreational side?
There's been talk about it, yes.
Hmm.
First, it would go to the co-located facilities. So we have co-located facilities that right now have certain inventory in medical, certain inventory in recreational, and they can move a certain amount from from recreational over, but they can't necessarily deplete their recreational supply either. So it's like we have to keep a certain amount for recreational, even though we can't sell it. I assume that's the way they open up. There isn't a huge surge of sale and then
Yeah.
nothing available. So I understand them trying to keep product available, but let's have those recreational facilities at least start to supply medical a little bit more.
Which
And
again,
we might have a variety of products. We have some products, but there isn't a variety. Like to find edibles right now, it's not as easy as it was for my patients that have messaged me and said, hey, like medical is taking a hit as far as supply. Prices might also go up with them.
Oh yeah,
taking advantage of that. But we're going to see prices start to.
Which is so unfortunate because then you're just taking advantage of patients, and nobody ever wants to see that happen. Seriously, it's like the worst thing ever. And I feel like so many of these dispensaries just kind of take advantage of patients, and the prices are outrageous. A lot of their cannabis is really low quality. I know a lot of growers just out of Massachusetts and New England that are way better than things you could find in a dispensary. And it's insane for me to say that. These people with a couple $1,000s worth of stuff are growing better stuff than these multi-million-dollar facilities that are governed and regulated and controlled. There's something definitely to say there, and probably something completely wrong with the system that it's even that way.
Absolutely. I wish there was more oversight.
Yeah.
I've seen people open facilities that were not built correctly. It was like, well, this is phase 1. Phase 2 will do it the right way. Phase 1 will get it up and going. And then they wonder why they're having problems. And it's like, well, you didn't build a facility that it's going to work to the capabilities that you need.
Yep.
Especially for a safe quality product. So it's all about change and continue to evolve. It's my mantra, I guess, at this point, because so many different changes have happened.
Yeah, and like you were saying before, like being an entrepreneur, that's what it's all about, is embracing the change. We had to cut out our 2 kiosks, and that's like a huge heartbreaker for us. We worked so hard to make those kiosks happen and get them fully staffed and everything, and have everybody trained, and everything was just going, and then it's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I know we talked about that business model, and I said it's going to be the domino effect for you. It's going to have a really, really steep build up, and you're going to feel the benefits of that, but you have to retain those customers, find different ways for them to connect to your business, switch them to online sales, and when the storefronts and brick and mortar are starting to tank, dip out fast. And don't ever sign a 1-year lease. Did they let you out of your agreements at hand, or did you?
No. And I mean, honestly, I still think that the kiosk model is going to work. I still think when this is all over, the malls are being very good. They're open to any and all ideas to keeping us happy. Like giving us a couple months free, or a couple of like warm up months before everybody's coming out to the malls and whatnot. But we do intend to actually expand that model, and we were just glad that we had the customers from that to even be able to email and be like, look, we're shut down. Here's 20% off and free shipping. Thank you. Like, continue to shop with us. We're trying here. And so many have shopped with us. It's been ridiculous. Like, we've had, I think, 70 orders this month, and that's way more than we typically have in a month.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I will be honest, so I do have concern that retail and malls, big shopping establishments, will not recover the same. Because I don't think people
I've seen
look
that
at going
too.
shopping the same. I won't. I'd order online all day before going into a mall. I would, unfortunately, now, just because everything happening for the next year or so, I would order before going into a public facility. But again, the pandemic is going to change things, so I can't anticipate, with a guarantee. My hunch is we'll have to find very adaptive ways.
Yeah, a part of me is very worried about that, and a part of me thinks that people are creatures of habit, and they're gonna just go right back into how things were eventually. But I'm hoping it doesn't take a full year for people to get back to normal and everything to get back to normal. But
I think there's
time will tell.
there's people that fit each area there.
Right.
So you're gonna lose those customers that have changed their opinions, and you're gonna get those back that are going to go back to real life and say no. Like, a lot of people are addicted to shopping too. Huge thing, but it just malls in general. I'm worried with Neiman Marcus, Macy's, Nordstrom's. They're not reopening.
Yeah, when I heard Neiman
And
Marcus,
also,
I
it
was
was
like,
really
holy
sad.
shit.
Wicked Chronic, Beverly just closed in Shrewsbury, but she's
Shrewsbury.
able to now focus on her Natick store. And so, I've been trying to refer some people to her because I think she might be switching to more online sales. And, during this time, it's just, what can we do to help people and
Yeah.
support other small businesses, and that's really important.
Yeah, we literally added the help our friends section to the website just for that reason. Like we've just been trying to put everybody on as much as possible because we've had way more orders. That means we've had way more traffic, and a lot of that traffic we've seen, probably 10% of people clicking through the website or clicking through help our friends. So hopefully we're helping them and they're making a little bit of money on sales, even if it takes away from us, because there's a couple CBD companies on there, but we want to make sure people are good because we're good.
Yeah.
And once it's like when the plane is crashing, you help yourself, and once you're good, you help your neighbors. It's
I do worry about the large corporate companies also taking over the CBD space. I went into a mall. I'm sure because you've had to have done a competitor analysis. Who is the large CBD topical company? They have a green banner with like
Seventh
triple white.
Sense.
Thank you. They make
They're
very aggressive marketing ploy. I couldn't believe the day I walked into the mall and they had a 20-foot woman's face with the word CBD. Like my mouth just dropped open. I was like, this is not good.
Yeah, they have a
And
beautiful
those are the
display.
people that's also the impact that you're going to be feeling is having those larger companies that come in. So the craft boutique product lines will always have a specific place and niche. It's just finding those ways to get it out there and not to get sucked under the umbrella of corporate CBD companies that are coming out.
It's the reason why like all of our marketing on the kiosk at Natick says local CBD. Well, even at Dartmouth, because they're in both of those malls, and we know we have to compete with them, and we have some insider information on that company, and we don't do too bad with our little brick and mortar company. We do like 80% to 100% of their numbers some weeks, but for our overhead is probably much, much lower than theirs.
Absolutely.
And so it makes me feel good that we're even able to do that. And we were doing that in a short few months at the kiosk. It also let me know, I did a lot of information on that, a lot of information. Well, I can't think right now. Too stoned, I guess. I did a lot of research on that company and got a lot of information. And basically, they're owned by a billionaire. They are a Canadian company. They have how many was it? 300 mall locations, 800 mall locations, and they also like bought out DSW, and they have a big deal with DSW, and they have a big deal with Abercrombie and Fitch. So they're a huge, 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 huge conglomerate. Um, that was like the first thing I did when we went into the mall before we ever even talked to the mall people about doing any kind of deal. I said, what the hell is that noise? I just sounded like there's aliens in my house.
I heard that. It was like a weird muffled.
It's just the new monitor, I guess. I just really thought I was about to get abducted. thought I thought it was over. I think you gotta press and hold the up button on the bottom one. I don't know.
So I have one person that's been commenting. I'm so sorry because I wasn't really looking at my Facebook Live, but somebody named Best of Buds said I just got my HCA in Holyoke. I am EE. What were you trying to open? I think I said I was trying to open a tier 1 cultivation and a manufacturing facility. He wants to know how we feel about economic empowerment and if we've been arrested for cannabis. So I have not been arrested for cannabis.
I've never been arrested for anything.
I had a close call. I've had multiple close calls and
Same.
other, I guess, how would I word it? I've been of attention. I was of attention multiple years ago, but I was very grateful to have my experience go the way that it did. But pre 2009 was a really interesting time.
Yeah. We got people laughing at that.
Yeah. Kind of worse technically. So when my mom watches, she's happy.
Uh-huh.
But no, I'll gladly talk about my experiences. Like it's not something I've talked about publicly a lot, but yeah, I mean, being in the cannabis space has always had its challenges, and
Yeah,
it
I
was
can't wait. I can't wait to talk
during your
more
time.
about my black market experiences.
Yeah,
It
me too.
I'm at that point where I'm formulating the way I want to say it in my head, because
Yeah, I think I
once
just
it's
did.
past, I think I just did. She said, I just improv'd it.
Yeah.
Once it's past the the limit, then start talking about it. It's stories. It becomes stories.
Another year to go. 6
We're
months to go.
stories.
But it's
Yeah,
6 months.
mine is past. All of it's past, and like I said, now it's just formulating it the right way to make it a little bit entertaining and funny and bring some light to it. Because yeah, you know,
Yeah,
why is
I feel
this? Why
very
is
grateful.
StreamYard asking me for a login thing? I don't know. Weird. Oh, he said the aliens comment had me laughing. Yeah, I was really convinced that I got abducted by. I was about to get abducted by aliens. Live. At least it was going to be live. There was going to be proof. The alien community was going to be. The UFO community was going to be pumped. They're gonna be
Oh
like,
my god!
yes, we have definitive proof that
Did you know
aliens exist.
I used to live in UFO County.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Like what? Roswell?
Southern California. Yep. Up near
That ex-
Joshua Tree.
that explains so much, Hope. Hope has been abducted 4 times. She doesn't know it.
Well, they would have a lot of people come to go on their expeditions. Like where Giant Rock is, and other sites that have a lot of history of UFO sightings. I mean,
Hmm.
a German spy lived under that rock. Yeah, in
What?
Southern California. It's huge. It's like 7 stories tall. And they have, yeah, a lot of people come to the village every year for their UFO conventions, and they go into the desert and
Never come back?
they come back. But
Oh,
there's a lot of crazy stories. I'll send them to you.
yeah. Do
You're into that kind of
that.
stuff. I mean, I didn't know until I moved there, and I was like, why is there like alien? Like, why is there alien graffiti? Like just driving to the desert, like there's a lot of alien themed artwork and graffiti and stuff like that. And I learned about what was like the area and all the history around it. It was really interesting. I only had one experience where I saw something weird, and that was the only experience in my life. I never actually had thought much about having an experience or potentially having one. But yeah, I saw some weird lights just kind of move through the sky like this,
I want to
and that's
see an
what it
alien
was.
so bad. I want to see an alien so bad. Like it's like on my. If I don't see an alien before I die, I'm gonna be so mad.
Oh, and by the way, I'm talking about Landers, California.
What
Look
was
up
the other thing?
Landers.
How do we feel about EE applicants? I think hell yeah, go for it. We are from Taunton and we're an economic impacted area. So as a hemp company, we don't qualify for any of the cannabis stuff, unfortunately. But our dispensaries do, and we're pretty close with our dispensaries, and we support everybody in EE. We're
Absolutely.
rooting for everybody. The
Yes.
big conglomerates are who we are rooting against. That's all I'll say. Like
Yeah.
we don't want these big conglomerates to take over.
Yeah. And the one thing we touched on was though that that 90%. We do have concern that these corporations could be taking advantage and taking all of the benefits and that profit. And
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want to see anyone's past or where they're from be used by someone else. That's our identity, and I don't think that should be used for someone else's advantage. if there's a fair agreement at hand where you're getting, the funding and the investment that you need to start the business, and the payout at the end is fair for everyone involved, I completely support that. But I can't see 90% working in a manner where the EE applicant is at that priority of benefit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not equal, in my opinion. It's I'm still absorbing and trying to figure out where they come up with that number and seeing that bigger impact on what's going to happen. And that's a shame, and that's scary. So, like you said, for people like Ed and Beacon Greentown, they've really been struggling and waiting because CCC is meeting once a month.
Mm-hmm.
So meeting once a month for a 3-hour meeting with everything that you have to talk about for medical and recreational, you can't possibly get through the hundreds and hundreds of applicants in a reasonable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I am glad that the E can have prioritization included in that. It's just, again, other people taking advantage of it that could be of concern.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we'll give you something kind of good, but we're also going to give you something terrible.
The double-edged sword.
Yes, very much. And that seems like how they've kind of run the whole industry as a double-edged sword. And it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I think that they should really be helping those in the community and then giving back to the community with the taxes that are brought in from those community people. It's a wild, wild thought, right? Like, who would have thought that that could work? And it's just not working here for some reason.
Yeah. And speaking of the brick and mortar and like the retail setup, I would like to see companies like, you and I that are hemp processors or doing white labeling be able to offer dispensaries priority to people like ourselves that are working with them or have products that we make.
Yeah,
Because other
100%.
processors work with small businesses and they're white labeling, but they can't get into the dispensaries. And, a dispensary is not going to take room in their cultivation to grow CBD or other, CBG or, investigate CBN or anything else like that. So, we were the first to grow CBD. It did not sell then, and I don't think it would really sell now unless you have like that 1-to-1 ratio. I love the ACDC. It's my favorite, like one of my favorite strains of all time. The first time I smoked ACDC was like the first time that cannabis actually took pressure off of my migraine. Like I went to the Tetrahydro Club, got ACDC oil from someone, and I was like crying the whole way home, and then I got a headache from crying. But I was like so grateful.
Just because of the relief.
It's, Joplin, Jamie Joplin was who I met, and she was the first time I could ever get like any ACDC or CBD strain that had a little bit of THC in it, which they were at that time. There was like a 1-to-1, and there was like I think a 5-to-1 that has come out since then that is in Maine. So we're getting there.
Yeah, and it would help if they changed the percentage number on hemp too for the THC.
It really would, or at least some sort of range.
Yeah, there's got to be a healthy way to be able to collaborate with the dispensaries and all the hemp farms. Like our dispensary in Taunton, they want to work with us, and there's really there's a couple of loopholes that you might be able to make it happen, but it's kind of really complicated. And we're trying, but it doesn't always work. And it's a risk. It's always a risk.
Oh, always, and even more so being small business like we are.
Absolutely. So I don't want to keep you too long. I know you said you were having some discomfort there, so I wanted to make sure to not keep you too long tonight. But
thank you.
For everybody that's
I want to bring one thing up if you don't mind. I wanted to ask you anyway, so like why not talk about it publicly? My biggest frustration with doing my renewal for like obviously the hemp license was the fingerprinting, because I went into, first of all, there's only one post office. The logistics of this are terrible.
Yes.
There's one post office where you can get fingerprinted, Milk Street in Boston. So you pay $30 parking to go to this post office to stay in the line, which of course this was in January, February. I kept going. I went back twice to try to get in. They only take so many people. So it's like the first, I think 30 people get fingerprinted and then they're done for the day. And now I'm getting messages from, like, it goes to the Department of Justice, I guess. I've gotten messages and letters from them saying, "Oh, we might need you to to do it again, but this time instead of electronic, we want you to go do ink and paper." They keep mailing me the forms for my fingerprint.
process was different.
Well, I clicked B. I should have clicked A.
Maybe I clicked
There
A.
was 2 options, and I was like, "Oh." Instinctually, B. It's easier to go in than it
was. well, so what I did is we went to the Taunton police station and we got fingerprinted, and then we had to mail that into the FBI and pay a fee for that, and then the FBI sent a letter back saying like you're all clear like a day later.
Yeah.
And what happened on my side is I sent it to them. And so what happens with MDAR is they don't really seem to like me much. I think I'm the pothead of the group of me and Andrew, and I'm the very persistent one. And when we weren't getting our license in what I thought was a timely manner, I was in their ear the whole time. So I was kind of a jerk about it, and I probably deserve how they treat me, but also I don't. And so
they take a lot of brunt of things that aren't their fault. So I think they've had to be defensive. Remember that March 2018
Do I ever?
meeting?
That's where they really started hating me.
No, not 18. It was last year. Was it last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
It was one of the first meetings.
Randolph.
Yes. Do you remember the line? I do not make the regulations.
Yes.
I am just repeating them. I do not have answers to that.
I also remember people in the audience that were saying, "Oh, screw this! If you guys want to do illegal things, meet me in the parking lot."
Oh my gosh, that barber in Northampton was like, "If you want seeds or product, just meet me at the Corolla."
Yeah. I was like, "This is hilarious. This is what happens when you put people."
It was really. It was.
It was a classic moment. That whole meeting was classic, and the funnier thing is, Andrew and I, we asked them if we could record, and they, of course, said no. And then, come to find out, it was actually a public event. So technically, we didn't need permission to even record. We could have just recorded.
I recorded it.
Yeah, I recorded the audio.
Yeah, I did too.
So, I mean, I have that forever to laugh at. And I remember...
I asked a couple salty questions in there. I don't remember what I asked, but I remember...
So my process, going back to the background check that they make you do... So we keep that's my mind, and we're medicated, and so I sent it in the first time after Andrew was like, "Hey, they hit me up, they still haven't gotten your background check," and so I sent it to them, and then it was like a couple months and they didn't get it, so I sent it to them again. And then it was a couple more months and they still didn't renew us. And so I sent it to them again. And this time I CC'd Andy to make sure that, I BCC'd Andy. Like
BCC, that's my favorite tool, by the way.
Oh, yes. Entrepreneurs, if you don't know what BCC is, when you're on the email, it stands for blind CC. So you can copy somebody on an email, the person that you're sending it to cannot see it. It's a brilliant move. You have to do it. And it's good for having proof of things, making sure they go through and everything like that too. So I did that, and then they finally got it, and now we finally are renewed and we're getting our license. Like, woo!
I'm really worried I'm going to get a letter saying that that I have a problem and it's like revoked or something.
Uh-oh.
So I'm working on the paper fingerprinting, but it's just interesting to hear everyone's story because, again, the A versus B, everyone's going down different.
Yeah, why is there options? Like, why is this so complicated for no reason?
Why can you only do it at one post office?
Right.
In Massachusetts. And of all post office, it's Milk Street in Boston.
I'm so glad I didn't go with the option you chose.
On Milk Street.
I don't want to go to Boston and get fingerprinted. That sounds awful.
Thank you so much for having me on. I do appreciate it, and it's always nice to hear updates of what Urban Acres is doing, and to touch base on how we feel things are developing. I'm always grateful and happy to provide any input or tell you about my experiences I've had all over the country with cannabis. But as always, I'm very grateful to be here in Massachusetts.
You're breaking up a little bit there at the end, but I heard what you said. I don't know if everybody else did. It's sounding like there's aliens on your side now. There's just aliens all over. No, no. I can hear you through the aliens, but they're still there.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. Have a good night.
Yes, Hope. Thank you so much for coming on. It was amazing. Make sure to follow Hope. I'll pop up her banner one more time. So make sure you follow her. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. This was much better than last night. Last night, if you watched, I'm sorry, because basically what had happened was, oh, where's my camera off? Okay, there we go. What had happened was, there's definitely aliens. There's definitely aliens, bro. Last night there was a stink bug, and that's like stink bugs like aliens. Has anybody ever seen a baby stink bug? I was talking about this last night with my fiance, which by the way, it's her birthday. It's so throw up some hearts for her birthday. She said she's 29 and feeling fine. I remember 29 like it was yesterday. It basically was. You're right. But yeah. Shayla said, "Yo, that stink bug had me dying." I'm telling you. So the way I got this set up is like, yo, this is so. If you guys could see my setup, you'd stop watching immediately because you'd be like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" It's. I have a fan that we don't use, and I have a phone clip on it that has like a ring light, and so the phone weighs the fan to the front. So I have like the cord of the fan wrapped around the handle and underneath the mattress to hold it in place so it doesn't tip over. And the stink bug landed on that cord that's going across, and I literally just took off my moccasin because I'm always wearing house shoes, and I just hit it off the cord, and I splatted that thing so hard, man. Like I seriously splatted it so hard, and it died immediately. Shayla says, "Happy birthday."
Thank you.
Hi, Nini. You're making your nightly appearance. Tickling Dada. Come here, baby. Hi. Oh, let's take this off. Daddy's getting used to producing this. Look at that. It's you. Say hi, booby. Hey. Oh, shit.
Oh, that's not good.
And she booted over the fan that was hanging on by a cord and had an ashtray on it. Very well. Oh, babies are destructive. Hey, do cute things. Do 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 do. Show your teeth. Show your teeth. Come on.
Or roll your eyes. That's cute too.
I'm gonna bite your belly. I'm gonna bite your belly.
Mia, show your teeth.
Are you ready for bed? You being a cranky bum? Ah, the baby. My favorite part of my lives, Sheila said.
Oh.
Thank you, Tony. Tony said, "This was definitely worth rolling up and watching. Informative and highly entertaining. Thanks for this." Yeah, so I'm trying to make this a nightly show. It's at 8 p.m. right now, but I'm thinking for family time's sake, I might change it to 7. So that way, because I'm trying to keep it about an hour long every day. I think I did that. Yeah, 54 minutes, right at the hour mark. Um, Ghetto fabulous, Shayla said about my setup. My setup is ghetto fabulous. You are correct. It is a work in progress for sure. We're steadily up. See, like one change in my angle and everything looks terrible. I'm hanging on by a thread over here, guys. All right. Well, um, if anybody has any questions, I'm gonna give you about 30 seconds to shoot them my way and do little plugs. First of all, if you're not on TikTok, you're messing up. TikTok is an amazing app and it's super fun. So you go download TikTok and get an account on there. One of the influencers on there named Chris Mangoes, he has 2 million followers. Make sure to go follow him, by the way. He just posted up a video with our CBD products, and our TikTok's blowing up a little bit. You know, we're hoping to see a little bit more traction. He's doing a live video with a giveaway and everything like that. So we'll see a little bit more traction probably from that. But you know, make sure you download TikTok and go watch Urban Acres videos on there. It's down here somewhere. Urban Acres. It's everywhere. There's a logo here. There's a logo on my hat. There's Urban Acres down below. Look at that, scrolling below. Wow. I gotta add Urban Acres TikTok to the website so it can make it easier to find. What emoji is this? Laughing emoji. I couldn't see that on my computer. Oh, man. So yeah, and I'm on Instagram. What did Adam say? Make sure to follow me there. Subscribe to the podcast audio if you'd rather listen to the audio. Although it seems like the people that were watching tonight, I'm seeing a lot of regular faces. Tony, I feel like I've seen you in here. Shayla, I see you in here all the time. There's a couple other faces that were familiar faces. So thank you for watching as always. Make sure you guys share and spread this to your friends, and let's get this far and wide. That's what she said. And I'm gonna be here every night at 8 o'clock. Like I said, might be changing to 7 o'clock. And yeah, I'm out of here. Have a great night, y'all. Oh wait, what was the thing I said? Um, in all my podcasts before I stopped doing them like 2 years ago. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Good vibes to you. Peace out.